Our guest this episode is Megan Nolan. She's a conference and event wellness expert with over 20 years experience. She's the creator of the Power Pause method, trademark, helping event planners and corporate teams transform those dreaded 3 p.m. energy slumps into all-day engagement. Through simple strategic wellness breaks, Megan helps audiences stay energized, focused, and fully present from the first keynote to the final session. So, here to share how event wellness can elevate engagement and create memorable experiences that last beyond the conference. Please welcome to the podcast, Megan Nolan. Megan, welcome.
Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here.
Good. Well, it's so good you can make it. And, I think this is such a needed thing. Like what we just, wellness at events. And I mean, let's just start talking about events and kind of the problem that you solve or help, associations, conferences, companies battle. Because, I mean, you fly somewhere, you show up at an event, there's thousands of people there potentially, right? Depending on the size of the event. You might have jet lag. You are around all these other people. If you're an introvert, my goodness, this is like hard. It takes a lot of energy just to be up to do that. Then you're going session after session, right? Consuming information, probably maybe not eating the best, possibly. I'm just thinking about my life, and I'm out on the trade shows and everything, right? And another thing too is certain event or industry events will have alcohol, drag people out to, late nights, and then you do it all over again the next day. So, I mean,
Yes.
Did you have more to add to that? But that's like, I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. I would add sleeping in a different bed,
Ooh.
probably not doing your normal workouts, probably not drinking enough water. And you nailed it with the food selections, drinking maybe more coffee or tea than usual, right? Which is also dehydrating. And then spending extensive amounts of time sitting down. You and I are both standing right now, right? But when people are going to conferences, meetings, events, they typically spend a significant portion of the day seated, right? And of course, with trade shows, people are up and walking likely a lot more than a longer duration event, training, meeting, etc. But I would definitely add the impact of all of that sitting to the list that you just made.
Yeah, and as you're talking about all of this, Megan, it's just making me think of, I mean, the applications for, hey, you're going to a conference as an attendee, you're putting on a conference as the company or the host or whoever's actually running it. Let's say you're sending salespeople to a trade show, or just people who are trying to create business and trying to meet these people. Like, there's so many different angles that this all from every angle really on the event side of things, it does matter. So let's roll back just a little bit and talk about, like, how did you get started in this? I'm going to guess there's a wellness on one side, and then you merged it with events or something. But I want to hear that story. What how did this come about? Because I think this is very unique, needed, timely, all of that. But tell us how you got into this.
Thank you. Well, it was a snowy day on January 1st. I'm just kidding. So it depends on how far back we want to go. Let's take it a little further in the timeline to the point in time when I graduated from the University of Guelph, right? We were chatting a little bit about how we're both from Canada. And I had a very expensive piece of paper and I said, okay, I don't think that I actually want to go into gerontology, which is the study of aging from a sociological and a psychological perspective, because I'm very sensitive, I'm very empathetic. And my parents were very adamant that I go to university. And so there I am holding this fancy piece of paper. And one big takeaway landed in my heart that movement is the fountain of youth. It is so impactful at any age and stage of our life. So I thought, well, why don't I take a slightly more preventative approach to aging and move to Hawaii and become a personal trainer? And my parents said, okay, well, you were born in America, so you can go. And so off I went. And that was really the beginning. I'm someone that has always loved movement. For me, movement is medicine for my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit, and essential. It's so vital for me. I don't know who I would be if I didn't get into yoga or have my morning routines. I'm a totally different person. And so I became a personal trainer. I lived on the big island of Hawaii for a few years and then, realized, well, maybe I should go back and be closer to my family. Okay, I'll move to British Columbia. And I became a yoga instructor. And I love British Columbia. It's so beautiful. But, as somebody who loves being outside and doesn't like being cold and rained on all the time, I kind of felt a little bit Eeyore-ish. So I moved back to Hawaii. So here I am on Maui. I've been here on Maui for 15 years. And so I've always done a fusion of yoga and exercise and personal training because I see them as very complementary, but yet missing some integral pieces on either side. And so it became an evolution of using the tools in the yoga studios, in the gyms, etc. And I began to integrate this into different places here on Maui and supporting our community. I've been inside all the power plants on Maui and taught yoga to gentlemen wearing coveralls and work boots. And later today, I'm actually going back to the mayor's conference rooms to teach our County of Maui team members tools to stay grounded amidst stress. And so it's been an evolution of my work. But one common denominator that has been there the whole time is the impact of sitting on our bodies. Because lean in, this part's really important. You are a human, not a rock. You are a human, not a rock. And so why would you sit and sit and sit and sit and sit some more like a rock when you're a human? Question mark. So really it became quite interesting to me because I had a lot of clients, a lot of students that were presenting with these common issues because their bodies had adapted to sitting. Our bodies are so incredible. They will adapt to anything that you put it through consistently and on an ongoing basis. One of those things is the amount of time people spend sitting working on a device. Right? That device might be your phone, obviously, your computer, your car, your truck, your vehicle, whatever it is. We spend a lot of time doing things in front of us with our arms in front of us, classically in a more rounded position with our head forward. And so that takes a toll, right? You might recognize some of those symptoms, the sneaky symptoms of sitting too much. I call them tidy and stressy and numby. They're like kind of like the seven dwarfs, but it's a real thing, right? It's a natural phenomenon. It's a modern day phenomenon. It's not great, right? But it happens. And so what I came to realize was that, of course, in the classical workplace setting, we do have a lot of sitting, but there's also a whole other area of work that we've been speaking to, and we'll go back to in a moment, where people spend even more time sitting down and even less time moving throughout the day. Can you guess what those might be?
Dance?
Who's the smart one? Look, Anders, I have these for you. I have these for you.
Gold
Gold
stars.
star.
For people just listening, she's got like a little gold star thing on, almost like a lollipop stick kind of. Yes, like you've got your little virtual presenting tools. I love it, Megan. So yeah, so I mean, it's funny you're talking about this like head forward, shoulder slump. Like as you're saying that, I could feel myself like kind of straightening up. Like it's like we need these reminders,
True.
and I think we're at an interesting time in history. For one,
Hmm.
the problem is so acute. The fact that we're all working on devices, so therefore we're
Hmm.
probably sitting, we're probably doing this, right? and
Hmm.
and the other side of it, though, that at least we're actually, well, not everyone, but there's an awareness, a growing awareness, let's call it, in the space to look after your people, whether it's a workplace or your attendees, if it's a conference or something. And then there are actions we can take. And I think when you talked about, guys in coveralls doing yoga, like 20, 30 years ago, you would have been like, no way. Like that, you know
No
what I
way.
mean? Like that
Yeah.
just wouldn't have happened. So it's like, and I'm sure you've maybe had some resistance in certain workplaces and you've had to overcome that. Has that been the case and you've had to kind of win them over a bit?
Well, it's funny because, in those moments, and these gentlemen, they were made to do this. A lot of the time when I teach people yoga and have workouts, they come to me because they want to do it or they feel like they should do it, they have to do it, etc. So the company Maui Electric brought me in. And they weren't ones like, okay, here we go. But it was something that we were integrating as part of the Blue Zones project. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's an incredible longevity project from National Geographic researchers and integrating different faculties of extending our life based on different pockets in the world that have higher rates of centennialism, like living really long, healthy lives, one of which is to move more. So they were integrating these policies and practices into the workplace. So I go in, it's whatever, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're doing some stretches and some breath work, and
Yeah.
they're all looking at me, and they're big guys, like they're Polynesian, they're big guys. And so there's me up front, like dee, dee, dee,
Yeah.
dee, dee. And trying to read the room, in like 15 minutes or whatever it was. And I just kept looking at them and they were looking back at me kind of like, that big sort of question mark. And of course
Yeah.
my brain is thinking, oh man, they're really hating this. What
Uh,
is it?
yeah.
Like we just got to get through this. Just get through this. You can do it. And then as soon as we were done, I kid you not, there was a line of people that wanted to tell me that that was the first time anyone had ever taught them how to breathe. That was the first time they stretched their body and it felt good. And now when they breathe, they can feel, they can feel themselves getting grounded. And I'm like, not even kidding, Anders. I could cry about it right now. It was so
You
beautiful.
bet.
It
You
was
bet.
so lovely because I thought they were hating it. But what I was misreading was a very focused, concentrated face, And so goes to show you don't believe everything your mind tells you, but it was definitely an interesting experience.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be so rewarding to
Yeah.
bring that to people, right? Um,
Hmm.
it's when you say people, feeling their body move or they feel like it's almost kind of like people can't buy into a certain thing, and whether that is a type of therapy or a type of, I don't know, exercise or whatever you want to talk about, till they feel the difference, right? Like they kind of like, yeah, 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 whatever,
Hmm.
right? Like, I mean, even talking longevity, it's hard in our minds unless you're suffering from something right now that you want to get rid of to think that long term. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's kind of, so getting people
Totally.
to feel that difference is so critical and makes me think. I'm going to give a little shout out to Brooke, who would do a yoga session for the booth staff at a client of ours called Shop Monkey. And the first time we ever did this, it was it was a smaller group of people in a smaller booth, and she goes, "Hey guys, I'm just going to run you through a few stretches to get us energized." And the people
Hmm.
are like, "Okay." And then year after year, she did it, and it was a much bigger booth, a lot of booth staff, and from a culture point of view, like let's not just
Hmm.
talk about the health side of it, but the idea that you have all hands on deck coming together,
Hmm.
doing something collectively that's
Hmm.
maybe a little bit out of the box.
Hmm.
um, it it bonds them together. So there's like, there's that side of things too, that there is not just the health benefits, but kind of a team unification thing that happens, I think, when everyone participates and goes all in. Um, yeah.
Absolutely. And what I love about what you were doing there and what she was leading was a more integrated approach to it. And that was definitely one of the core themes at IMEX of the talks that I was going to about the importance of weaving these in and having these waves of energy throughout the day and not just bookending the day with a 6 a.m. yoga or a 5K run or, at the end of the day, it's healthy cocktails or whatever, but it's a whole integration and approach that then does create that connective experience for people, bringing them into their body, which on a physiological level when we are grounded and present and anchored, which is what yoga, breath work, movement, somatic practices, workouts, even running, even all of them have this benefit to a degree, is when we become really grounded in our body starts to regulate, our nervous system begins to regulate back to that nice steady state, right? And so that signal is much stronger from the body up to the brain. It's 80% information comes from the brain to the body versus the other way around. So that's why we can't think our way out of stress. We have to shift the state of the body so that it signals safety to the brain. So when we are in that safe place from the nervous system perspective, we're either safe or we are in stress and attempting survival, right? And of course, the body reads it much differently than we do in our conscious mind, but it's fundamentally the same system. And so when we are in that nice, grounded, connected, and coherent state, because if you're doing it with other people, even when you do it yourself, you have self-coherence, but then you have group coherence, and coherence means steady and even and connected. Right. And so that's the fundamental connection at a physiological level that we're
Mm,
getting and that we feel, which is so cool because we all talk about connection. We want to create these great connective experiences. But do we understand what's really happening? That's what's really happening. And when we do that in the body, the heart rate rhythm starts to get really coherent, steady, consistent. And so it signals that to the brain, which, if we're stressed out, the signal is very erratic and spastic, right? And so, that we associate with stress, anxiety, worry, overwhelm, all that's crazy
right.
stuff, right? That happens to all of us all the time and can happen in these environments. So when we signal that nice, steady state, and we signal that, and this is all happening without your awareness, because let's be real, who
Conscious.
could keep charge of all these things? It's a lot. Your body's amazing. You're amazing, right? You're not a rock and you are amazing. That's our big takeaway from this episode. So when your body is signaling that to your brain, the areas of the brain that are activated shift. And so the stressed threat detection center of the brain, called your amygdala, goes
Mhm.
offline. And the big brain, your prefrontal cortex, which is where your memory, your creativity, your imagination, your decision making, your personality, that lives in the prefrontal cortex. And we can't access that if we're in that stressed and frantic and frazzled state. So that's really what's happening. And that's why it's important that we take little power pauses, little moments throughout the day, just like you would drink water likely throughout the day, right? You don't drink water once a week and you're like, I'm good for the next 7 days. It's not how it works, right? You'd have a headache, you'd probably pass
Yeah.
out. Like, there's a lot of things. So when we can drip these little mindful moments throughout the day, throughout the
Yeah.
agenda, throughout the conference, it really supports our attendees and ourselves at the core level of our physiology. So we're supporting the body and the brain
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Wow. So much to unpack there, Megan. And when you describe that, throughout the day instead of just bookending, that
Hmm.
idea that I think of it because of my background of being a performer. It's like the way you structure a show is, you gotta open big and you gotta close big, right? But
Sure.
there's gotta be a bit of a story arc or something happening there to create interest. You can't just go up, 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 and just
Hmm.
in this case, kind of being more stressful, more frantic, or whatever, right? In
Hmm.
terms of the energy level, we have to have those peaks and valleys to create the contrast, to create an interest curve. And so I can see how that fits into the day. And also that connection that you talked about, if we can like free up our mind to tap into the creative side of things and the emotional side of things, well, your takeaways, your memory of the event is going to be so much deeper and richer, because we need emotions to have these little mental sticky notes to
Hmm.
remember these things, to create those peak experiences. So from an
Absolutely.
event planner perspective, I can see the value of doing this, right? Is just, it's going to make it much more special, and not only that, but people get more out of it, right? For what they're planning. So you said something about the power pause method, and I said it in the intro too, but like this, take some power pauses throughout the day. I think it's a great time to then, can we kind of unpack that a little bit? To what would a power pause look like if you were doing it as at a session or at a conference?
Well, to your point earlier, I think it would be even more impactful if we experienced one. Would you
Right
be
now?
open to that?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
two of us. And our listeners, can they do it too, as long as they're not driving or something? Or
Yes.
should we do
Yes.
a warning
Actually,
on that? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to include everyone. Mhm.
Okay, awesome.
And so we will even do an eyes open one because those of you that are driving, obviously, you need to keep your eyes open. Okay, so we're going to take a pause, and I would love for you to, as long as you're not driving, you're just going to let your eyes come down a little bit, right? So if you're driving, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes on the wheel and the road. Just notice what's in front of you. But if you're not driving, just close your eyes down just a little bit, or if it's safe for you to do, you can close them all the way, but only keep that in mind. Keep your safety as your top priority. So take a moment and take a big deep breath, and then let it out through your mouth. And I want you to make the sound audible. So when you breathe out, I want you to make it loud enough and full enough that you can hear it. Try again. One more time, making the ha sound with your breath. Now make it longer, fuller, and deeper on the next time. Beautiful. Notice how you're feeling right now. So if on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I am so sleepy, I could definitely fall asleep right now, and 10 being fully energized, fully feeling incredible, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, so we want to do that first step, which is called feel the feels. So that's the first step, is awareness. Now what we're going to do is on the inhale, okay, so on the inhale, we're going to open our hands really wide. Breathing in, so keep your palms on the wheel if you're doing a driving thing. And then as you exhale, squeeze your fist and squeeze the steering wheel or your hand, okay? And now you can know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna bring my arms back down. You bring your arms back down too, okay? Ready? On the inhale, we open the hands. On the exhale, we squeeze. Not so that you dig into the fingernails too much, but just give it a good squeeze. Ready? Breathe in. Open the palms, open the body, feel the inflation of the body, and then breathe out as long as you can using your ha. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Feel the hands relax as you breathe in. Feel your body relax as you breathe in. And then exhale, go again. Longer and deeper from your belly. Beautiful. One more time. Spread your fingers and then exhale. Okay, now that was taking a power pause. And again, soften your eyes. Obviously, if you're driving, keep your eyes on the road. If you're not driving, you can allow your eyes to relax or even close. And I want you to take another breath. And before we go back together, I want you to decide how you would like to go into the next moment. How would you like to go into the next part of your day? How do you want to show up? Do you want to show up happy, grounded, focused? Decide. Okay, so take a moment and really make a decision. Pick one thing that feels good to you, uplifting, aligned for you. Decide. Begin to feel that in your body now. Make that decision. Feel it, allow it to kind of permeate through your body that you are that. And that's how you're going to go back into the day. Deciding that. Beautiful. And now one more time so I can see them. Ready? Hands up. Breathe in. Make that decision. Ready, go. Squeeze. And now this time, hands up and sparkle wave. So there's 3 steps.
Okay.
Feel the feels, which means notice where you're at. Practicing non-judgmental self-awareness, right? All parts of you, all feelings are welcome, they're valid, they're happening. Okay, so feel the feels. The second part is take a power pause. And the beautiful thing about power pauses is that there's so many options. You can power pause when you're washing the dishes and focus on the smell of the soap, the sound of the water. When you're walking your dog, you can watch as they're walking and you can just watch their fluffy little tush waving side to side, whatever. Focus on one thing, okay? So what you're using here are your senses to come to your senses, to come into the present moment, which will do everything that we spoke to scientifically earlier, okay? So feel the feels, take a power pause, then third, decide who to be. This is where your conscious mind becomes available to you. It's not available if we are in a stress state because we are in that survival mode, right? And so what we want to do here is make that conscious decision, but from this very present, grounded place of how you are going to continue, right? And that's the power of these. By pausing here, we get to make that intentional choice.
You know what? It's funny. We have lots of different guests on, and there's things that just make so much sense that people talk about, and then we don't do them, right? Like it's like we need these reminders, and we need
Mm-hmm.
to set up like systems for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that just to give ourselves what we need. And that's um I really I enjoyed that. And it's funny because it's like I've heard of, grounding and different exercises before, but why I don't do that, like, and that felt good. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
something about the being the guide is nice, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I could do that for myself and I should, and I make a goal to do that more of the time. And I should
Mm-hmm.
own that, Megan, before you're
Yes.
laughing at me. But
No, I'm
the
not.
idea,
Send me messages on LinkedIn when you've done them. I'm happy to be
yeah,
your accountability
sure.
buddy.
But what I'm just saying is it's just like I mean, it is nice. It's like a guided meditation in a sense too. It's like it's hard,
Sure.
like it's for someone to say, "Hey, this is what we're doing." And then you're like, "Oh, okay." Like, and then you do them, and again, giving people that awareness that it feels better, right? And then
Mhm.
and kind of setting that rudder too when you say that setting that intention and who you want to be and come back to that, the moment. Um the other thing, sorry, I'm taking a lot. I'm just processing this, Megan, audibly
Love
as
it.
as we talk about this. Um,
Sure.
is that you know I took some voice work and some theater and everything like that, and like diaphragm
Mhm.
breathing. I love the hand thing
Mhm.
because you're linking your hands to your diaphragm in a sense, and it's like, some people don't some people chest breathe so much up
Mhm.
high that they
Mhm.
don't get those deep breaths. Like the first time you have some of those really deep breaths, you're just like, whoa, what have I been doing this whole time? Right? Like,
Right?
how did I
How have I made
survive
it
on
this
this
far?
other thing? Right. So, but the hand thing, I feel like it really connects it up a little bit more. Like we're really squeezing that air out, right? And then we're like,
Yes,
and then we drop that diaphragm, let it fill back up in, and like, yeah. So,
exactly.
well, very good. Okay, power pausing. Okay. Let's let's talk about a little bit of this, a little bit kind of what we're talking about with the coverall guys, and kind of like this. All
Okay.
right, arms crossed kind of thing. If people were to be able to do some wellness breaks in a conference, whether they bring you in to do it or they try to do them on their own or something like that,
Mhm.
how can we avoid things being forced or feeling it being kind of, I don't know, gimmicky or something, like, you know what I mean? Like how can we normalize it that people want to be a part of this? Some people are all in. Like I was just
Sure.
at a professional speakers summit, a leadership summit, and everyone's like into all of this, and it would be like they'd be all over it like nothing, right? But I know not
Mhm.
every conference is going to be like that. So do you have any
Mhm.
tips or anything that would be a way of rolling this out in an ecological way for everyone?
Yes, I mean, you definitely hit on a point there. There's audiences that are going to be a lot more receptive and open to it, and that's definitely an easier place to start. But also, when we do our registration and we are getting information from our attendees of how they want to feel throughout the experience, how do they want to finish the experience, what do they, their core takeaways. And so looking at that, because, for the most part, people leave events and they're very tired, they're worn out, they're drained. And they find that, and even something like that, getting that sort of information and asking a question like, well, how would it feel for you, or what would it mean for you if you could leave this event feeling very energized, feeling very inspired, ready to take action on what you've learned? Something like that really sets the stage for, okay. So in our
Mm.
registration poll, we got so much information about how you folks want to have this event go, how you want to feel. Nobody said they wanted to be exhausted at the end. So here is what we are integrating to make that happen. and they're simple, they're fast, they're effective, they're fun, they're inclusive, and adding the layers to it, because when we talk about those longer duration training events, or when the keynote's about to happen, or key sponsors, et cetera, there is that element of priming people. And so what we did there would be a more relaxing and centering piece before we set some intentions or what have you. But when we bring the body into it, it's a lot more energizing. So when we can get people literally just up out of their chairs, and it's a simple buy-in at first, it's like, all right, let's all stand up. And so everybody is longing to stand up because they
Yeah.
feel like they're becoming one with the chair. And so when we bring that element of just a little bit of movement and see how it feels, so that it's not, we're not going to do things where they feel silly, they feel embarrassed, or they have to change into yoga pants in front of their boss. Like, it's none of that, because that could really reduces the buy-in on people. So it's that really
Yeah.
knowing who you're speaking to and using a language that would be conducive
Hmm.
to it landing a little more easily. So, for example, public speakers, in your case, and you have excellent posture, I can see that the way you're standing, but that's very important, the way we carry ourselves when we go to get on stage. The delivery, the body language, the clarity, that switches gears if we're talking at a sales convention, because how you present will impact the delivery and the receptivity of the information, right? Your sales conversation is not going to go as well if you're like, "Yeah, well, hi, I have this really great product. I know you're really going to like it," and
Right.
so that sort of thing. And then, medical professionals, like, so there's a languaging finesse, probably not the right words, but you know what I mean? There's a languaging that gets to be aligned that then, air quotes, makes sense to people.
Yeah. And something you said there too made me think, like, if you like, first of all, the personalization side of it, like when people register, how important is this to them? Right? Like,
Hmm.
and is there a track that, would make sense for them in that sense? Another piece that made me think about was that if you taught a power pause at the beginning and there was reminders that went out on the app,
Hmm.
like that, time for a power pause, like it would be so cool, everyone to check their phone, they got a notification, and then they all just like, everyone, you see just everyone standing there taking a big breath and just like taking a moment. And if you didn't have the app, you'd be looking around like, what's
Like,
going
what just
on? But
happened?
but the fact that if everyone did it, no one would feel silly, right? Like, and it's just
Right.
like, so
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of neat, kind of takeaways for that. Let me ask Megan, how do you help, you know, um, conferences, people who are event planning? Like, do you come in and do this? Do you like, how do you, tell us a little bit about how you help out with this kind of being a wellness expert, conference wellness expert?
Sure. So it really does start from the beginning and looking at the audience, looking at the goals, looking at the culture of the organization, so that we can make sure that everything that we do as far as mapping the energy of the event, and that's really what this is mapping that out over the course, the duration of the event or the conference. So we're really starting with those fundamentals and looking at, the vision for the whole event, the story, the theme, and how can we weave that throughout, as they are already doing with the agenda and the elements, but using the power pauses and the different tools that I bring into it to really support that. So it's a true mapping of the whole experience, because a lot of times people think, oh, okay, well, we have a lot to deliver. We don't have as much time as we'd like. We can't make any more than 24 hours in the day. So they stack these crazy agendas that have
Mm,
people, with a 3.5 minute bathroom break where they're also supposed to fill their water bottle and get a snack, everyone at the same time, and then come back and pay attention. And
yeah.
so that's just not doable, right? We've talked a lot about the physiology and the cognitive overload that happens. And so we want to look at how can we literally make a little bit of breathing room. I think it's funny.
I get it. I get it. I got it. I see
Thank
what you
you.
did there. Yeah.
I know, it's funny. And so how can we finesse it in a way that truly supports people as humans, not rocks, right? They're not rocks. So we want to make sure they're up and moving a little bit more. And
Yeah.
then also really giving that space, literally, for people to create space in their body and breathe and have that cognitive space to digest the information from the previous session before we have a really big session with the keynote or the sponsor, where we really want people to be very present. But if they're tired and exhausted, or right after lunch when they have that,
Right.
coma that everybody knows about. And that's when the chair melting really happens. And we've all experienced that. And so, how can we strategically place these to truly prime and prepare people, both from a setting the stage for the day, coming together as a group, as a community, giving spaces for this to land, giving opportunities to connect with people and share the to breathe together, to move together, laugh, play, all of that fun stuff that we, again, are very much customizing to the whole experience, and then really bring it together in a way that makes sense and also truly does increase the impact, the ROI and the ROE. And then another thing at IMEX that I learned, which I loved, was the new KPI to look for is ELU, eyes lighting up. We want to
Oh,
create experiences, right? We want to create experiences. We want that moment when he came up and he was so excited to tell
yeah.
me that nobody had ever taught him how to breathe before.
Right.
That was an eyes light up moment.
Aha moments, right? Like, yeah, yeah. Man, that is so neat. Like it's such and what I'm taking from that is you need to be in early in the planning. Like this is not something you
Mhm.
just decide to throw in, right? Because of the strategy behind all of this, right?
Mhm.
Um, like Megan, there's so much to unpack there, but I think if our listeners, following along with this, they did the power pause, all of this, they're realizing that there is something there. There's something, and they need to dig into this deeper because we want to look after the wellness of our visitors, of our attendees, I should say, right? Like they're
Absolutely.
paying to be there. Like give them a true experience, and you're giving them something that's going to allow them to make the best of it. So, how can people reach out to you, Megan?
Yes, thank you. And that's so true. And I agree that, the earlier we get into this design process, the better. Because a lot of times what happens is it sort of like gets slapped on top, and
Yeah.
it's like a box to check and it's just not a cohesive experience. And so the best way to get connected is to go to take a power pause.com. Takeapowerpause.com, and there's more information about power pauses, about me, about the services, and opportunity to book a totally complimentary session with you, with your team, to get a sense, to have a customized experience and just to check it out, right? And to give your team a fun experience and, go from there if it feels aligned. And so that's a really great opportunity to get connected with me, and that way I can answer any further questions that you might have.
Awesome. Well, you saying that makes me go, I know some people who put on events, so I'm probably going to
Do
be
you?
passing on your name. So yeah, it'd be awesome. They might be passing on the recording of this so they get the gist of it, right? So they can check you out beforehand.
Thank you.
Megan, thank you so much for your time, your expertise, your energy. That's thanks for the power pause. It's we need to do more of that, way more of that. And the whole moving thing, I took away that too. That whole like, move more. Not I
Mhm.
sometimes have this thing in my head like, oh, I got to save my energy, and I don't know
Mm-mm.
if that really actually works that way, right? So it's
No, no. It
important.
actually movement generates activity in our cells. And so,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you're like, well, why would that do that for me if I'm already tired? Because our body is that constantly rejuvenating system. And when we give it these fundamental ingredients like water and food and sunlight and sleep and movement, then it really can thrive at the deepest level.
All right. I hope yeah, now go out there and go for a walk, everybody, or something. Move.
Yes.
Okay. Megan, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. It was awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to connecting with anybody. Again, reach out at takeapowerpause.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about your agenda or anything like that.
Awesome. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged.
Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, Tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and stay engaged.